All right, welcome everybody. Today we have Mr. Craig Shwonek. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, man. Um, Craig's been with us, well, as long as I've been at Fast Tracks, you've been there, right?
Yeah, I think I started. I think I started the second year of Fast Tracks coaching, but I've been at the track every year that
Really, second year?
Fast.
Because for some reason I thought that you were there before me, but I started with Fast Tracks the first year, I think.
Yeah, I think you started with the first year, and then I want to say I started the second year of Fast Tracks, but I couldn't. It all kind of blurs into a mist after a while of like how long you've been riding and everything like that. So I just know I've been helping out for a while.
Yeah, we'll get.
Um,
I guess we'll get into that a little bit more as we get through this. But excuse me. Um, so, as I ask everybody, um, how did you get into riding motorcycles, sir?
I got into riding motorcycles as a babysitter for my dad. Um, Back when I was 5 years old, I used to, go to the barn with my dad on the farm and get in the way. And so he figured out real early that I had an interest in bicycles, motorcycles, basically anything with two wheels. So he would hop on he'd put me in the front, and we'd start up riding this old Suzuki that we had, this dirt bike, road bike, and he'd hop off the back, and I would kind of keep on going for around this 5 acre field that we had. I would just ride on the perimeter and stuff like that around this like cornfield that we had that we didn't plant, and when it was time for me to get off, take a break or something like that, or run out of gas because I would look at the fuel, if the fuel gauge came on, I would be on there for like hours, and if the fuel gauge came on or I'd go to the bathroom or something like that, I'd ride by the barn, and the next time around I'd ride by the barn again, and he'd hop on the back. I mean, I literally, I'm 5 years old on a full size motorcycle. I couldn't reach the pegs to shift gears or anything, so he'd just put it in like second gear, and yeah, so I've been riding since I was 5 years old. Um, Kind of going and rode, and then got into a little mini 80cc Yamaha YZ80 and 125s and things like that, and was riding all the way up until I was um, you know uh, 18 years old, basically riding bikes. I got in trouble a couple of times before got in trouble a couple of times stealing motorcycles so I could go ride, go to like go go ride a motorcycle. But I'd steal my dad's bike and go ride on the road and things like that. And then before I was legally able to, not that I got picked up by the cops, but because I got picked up by my dad, my dad would find out about it. So I was kind of always, yeah, always riding a bike, really.
That's it's kind of funny because you and Marty have both stole your dad's bikes. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's kind of hilarious. Um,
yeah. He had a Yamaha DT 250, and I would literally take it to go to basketball game, watch, get to the high school basketball games and things like that. And my dad, worked besides the farm, worked second shift, so I could get away with it for a little bit because my mom was kind of oblivious to what was going on. But yeah.
nice. What?
Hmm.
So, how did you pick up wanting to ride at the track? When was the first time that you rode at the track?
I think I was 17, on a Yamaha. Um, Road America, like my dad, we would go to Road America in Wisconsin. I'm originally from Wisconsin. To set the background, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so we would go to road. My dad rode motorcycles competitively, um, and flat track rate type racing and scrambles and things like that when he was younger. And then uh, we would we had cruisers. We had we were a Yamaha family, so we had Yamaha bagger, if you will, and we would go to Road America every year. And I think I was 17 years old, and I rode a SRX 500 at Road America. But then I also, at that point, I also was driving a couple of friends of mine around. It was funny because I was wearing my dad's leathers, which were too big for me. My dad, I'm 5'11" and my dad's 6'2", so I was wearing like leathers that were way too big for me, and plus the, like no hump, no armor in it, nothing like that. It was just like
Was that like kind of before, like some of the other guys I talked to, a little bit
that was like
older, like before
80.
track days were like track days?
Yeah, yeah. It was way before track days. There were no track days. It was just like you're gonna go race or you're not.
How was that
Um,
first experience on the track? Was it like
I didn't want
what
to
you were
do it anymore after that. I'll
really?
tell you that. Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is not it. But well, because at the same time, I also had a couple of friends that were into bicycle racing, and I met a couple of bicycle racers. Um, I met this kid named Eric Hayden, who in 1980 won all um, 5 gold medals at the 1980 Olympics in speed skating, and then went on to become a pro bike racer. And then I met another kid named Greg LeMond, and I kind of fell in love with bike racing. And so I took a hiatus from motorcycle racing, riding competitively or anything like that, or tracking anything for years because I was on a bicycle. And then I like everybody from Wisconsin. Well, I would say everybody from Wisconsin, but I finally got a job with Harley Davidson Motor Company. Um, and one of the things that they wanted me to do is move here to the Cleveland area to work at the H Harley Davidson Dealer Systems group. And I kept riding bicycles. And one day I literally was riding my bike out and rode past Nelson Ledges and was like, hey, there's a racetrack here. This is kind of cool. And um, it was a Saturday and Sunday. I drove back out there and the motorcycles were still running. And that was it. That's kind of where I like hung up my bicycle, cleats, if you will, and started doing motorcycles after that was like 2 weeks after that, because 2 weeks in that 2 weeks, I went out and bought a bike. And um, and during that time, like I've had Harleys, but I had cruiser bikes. I wasn't doing track riding. Even though I had a background in track racing and riding and hill climbs and motocross and things like that, I was really just a road rider. Um, and so just a random bicycle ride got me at Nelson Ledges and then got me involved back into the sport again.
Yeah, because you and you and Chris Bogert, you guys do a lot of like mountain biking stuff still, right?
Yeah, we do mountain biking, yeah. But just like I'm talking before fast tracks, before so it started out. I don't even remember the name of the group that was before, but it was before the current owner, before Brian owned the track.
Yeah, lean.
Um, yeah, I think it was even before Lean.
Uh,
Um, it was like before the track got repaved. That's
yeah,
like
that was. I think it was
how
original fast tracks back then.
it might have been original fast tracks back then, but so it was like way back then. Then with the Lean, I rode with Lean for the whole duration that existed. Uh, that got us into racing again. Um, Me, Eddie Bennett, Simon, and Tony started doing the endurance races again, and started spare parts. Um, and then that morphed now with Adam and Blitnikoff, and still Tony and me are the original endurance racers, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, no one asked me to help.
You weren't around, you
No,
know.
I mean
Yeah.
recently. Come on, come on, come on.
Well,
I'm
it's
joking. I'm
funny.
joking.
I know you are. I know you are because there's like I have. It's the number. It's funny the number of people that are looking. It's. We could make a whole podcast just on the endurance racing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
for
it's just
sure.
like, um, lean with the endurance racing was just like fantastic.
It
You
was the
know,
best.
it was.
It has been my like of all the racing I've done, since I've started racing, the lean endurance races have are still my favorite.
Yeah, they were.
Because
And that's not the.
it's not high level club racer or Moto America guys that are coming in and club racing and cleaning up, whatever.
You're not. Yeah, you're not.
It's just regular guys that want to go out, have fun, and the competition is pretty close. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's good,
yeah,
good fun.
yeah. We were. You're not racing against Josh Hayes. Um,
Or
you're
Stefano
racing
Mesa
against.
or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, those were fantastic times, and then lean morphed into fast tracks, and I want to say it was like the second year. I want to say it was like in the first year, the fast tracks that Mike approached me to being a coach, or somebody did. I don't know how it actually happened, but I couldn't tell you. But somebody asked me if I wanted to be a coach. I was like, heck yeah, you know.
Yeah, so
Um,
that was a question that we're gonna roll into, and so that's how you got asked. What's your reasoning like behind wanting to coach?
just to help people. The biggest thing was like you'd see new people come to the track, um, and not really get the mentorship that they needed. I was a coach in bicycle racing too, like 10 speed Tour de France. Not that I ever raced the Tour de France, but that type of racing when I say bicycle racing so people can understand road racing. So I coached with road racing, so it was kind of a natural fit for me to want to coach, um, I guess, and just talk to people and things like that and be able to work with them and help them out. And some I forget who asked me. I want to say it was James Pamplin at the time. Uh, Asked if I was interested in coaching and introduced me to Mike Malachar, and then next thing you know, I'm on the coaching staff at Nelson Ledges.
Yeah, and you're been pretty awesome. It's always like hanging out with you out there and stuff, and do a
Yeah,
pretty good job. And you got a crew under that canopy. It seems like I always joke with you about this stuff. On race weekends, you're more a mechanic than anything.
well, that's like, well, that goes where you start. Like when it goes way back to like when I started. The first bike I bought was and I've heard you ask this question before about like bikes and stuff like that, but the first bike I bought was literally a basket case SV 650.
Isn't that
So,
what you still
and
ride? Well, no, you don't have. Do you still have an SV? Yeah,
I
you
do
do.
have an SV.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
still have an
basket case
SV, but
too.
that was a basket case. I sold my original bike. I sold my original bike finally, only because I had two SVs and I wanted to finally get something that was a little bit newer. But I had literally it came in parts. The engine was together and ran, but I had to put the carburetors. It was a Gen 1 SV, so I had to put everything together, the carburetors, the repaint it. I had to self-teach myself how to do fiberglass to tuning carburetors and balancing carburetors. I knew how to do a lot of this stuff because I grew up on farmland in Wisconsin and kind of working on everything. And my dad was a motorcycle mechanic as well as robotics engineer and things like that. So uh, I had a mechanical background, but I had to teach myself all this stuff. And my original SV 650 that we raced for years um, uh, was hyper reliable. Like literally that bike just wouldn't quit until it finally blew um, um, a freeze plug out of it. And even then,
They're
it
well
didn't.
known for being tanks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I built another bike. I built a second SV out of a basket case um, in I don't know, a couple years ago. I want to say 4 years ago. And that one I had a super bike motor built for it. It's a 2 mil over, the whole kit and caboodle, 2 mil over, the cam swap and yada 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 on the engine on it, and just never was able to get that thing. And I still own that bike. I was never able to get that thing ready to go for endurance racing until, quite ironically, last year. But there was no endurance races to go to other than the national events, and I had already bought basically an MT-07 to do endurance racing on because I wanted something with fuel injection versus carbureted. So, um, it was just one of those deals where it's like I got into it just as much to work on motorcycles as I did to really ride the motorcycles, if you will. Um, which is kind of, I know a lot of guys just like to show up, ride their bikes, and go. But I think I spend my winters rebuilding stuff and painting stuff and that kind of thing.
I used to like, working on my own bikes and stuff, and then it got to a point where I just got tired of it. When
Yeah,
you're working so much, but like I do like the painting and the kind of
yeah. You want your bike to look good. You want it to be clean and look good and things like that. And,
don't
and
don't get me
and
wrong, I
and
like modifying stuff. I think anybody's into cars and
yeah,
bikes or any type of stuff like
yeah.
that, like there's just like a insatiable need. Like you can't stop it. Like you gotta do
No,
this or
no.
gotta do that. You know what I mean? Even with
Yeah, and
just
you want,
tinkering and not
yeah,
buying something, like how can I make
yeah,
it better? How can I improve it?
yeah. How can I make it look more modern, even though it's old? Like my current, the Gen One that I own right now. I mean, I built the subframes for it. The front and rear subframes for it, so they would hold a different tail section that I wanted to use, and even with the tail section, I had to do a lot of fiberglass work to make it work. So it's kind of cool, and it's just kind of fun to do that stuff to tweak on it as much as that's why, like, I still to this day think an SV650 is probably one of the most economical bikes that you can buy to get involved in track riding. It's not necessarily my first choice of bike. I think I would probably look at a Ninja 400 first. Um, but I would say as SV650 would be a really, really close second, if not, tied for first, just because they're so cheap. If you're really interested in doing track riding and maybe think you come close to wanting to race, then it's a good category to start in, and they're cheap, so you can throw the bike away. I mean, and by throw the bike away, I mean you could crash the bike, total the bike, throw it in the dumpster, walk away from it, and you're still, only out $2,500. You know, uh, it's not a little bit of money, but it's all, it's a reasonable amount of money for the bikes nowadays. Whereas I see some guys that just show up on their first track day on like Ducatis, you
Hey
know,
now,
and not, I didn't say I didn't say you, but you've seen those guys that show up for novice class and on a $20,000+ bike, and you're just like, wow, I hope you have a good day, you know.
I mean, I used to be, used to have that same type of thought thing, like, man, like showing up on that novice. But now, the more I think about it, the more I go, you know what? Like, kudos, man. There's guys that have $40,000 Ducati or BMW or whatever it is, never step foot on a track. They never even try to put the bike in a
You're right.
place that it
Yeah.
it belongs. So like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I can't
I
really say any bad things about it. I mean, like everybody has their, if you can afford it, whatever, go for it, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, if you can afford it, do it. But there's so many people that like in the novice group and the intermediate group that are just hobby riders that want to get faster, and maybe like, um, that even could afford the Ducati that are like, maybe this is, it's not the right choice for them, or or even the 1,000 cc bike isn't the right choice for them. Um, so I still always, I'll tell everybody I'll tell everybody in the planet, find the smallest bike you can ride, and then when you get fast on that bike, then you're going to be fast on your big bike.
Yeah, I would
Um,
100% agree with that. I think I had this kind of similar conversation with somebody else, but like, you know, what taught like I started riding the track like my first time ever was like on a 600 F4I, and then I think I was
mhm.
on 600s a little bit for a while, on and off. I had a little hiatus when it came back. At that point, I had the RSV4, and I mean, the more you ride a bike, the more comfortable you are on it. That's one thing I
Oh yeah,
always try to tell people is like stick with one bike. I know a guy that I mean he would beat like 3 bikes in a season, and like I'm not
yeah,
getting any faster. Well, I mean like you can't even get used to the bike. But
yeah,
aside from that, like I started to really get fast when I started riding. I bought that Duke 390
yeah,
to race it and do endurance and stuff, and like there's just there's no hiding your deficiencies. Like if you
hmm,
can't carry corner speed, there's none of this that's going to make up for it. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to improve that corner speed in your skill set to like be fast on it. And then, you're on tires that are skinny on the 400s, little lightweight, but ultra lightweights. I mean, you're on a what size are those? Like a 140, I think, rear tire.
yeah. I think it's a one. Yeah,
Yeah, I
140.
mean that's nothing. I mean most
Hmm.
bikes are running 180 or up to 200, and that's a lot more tire. And like it puts
Yeah,
things in perspective. Like you have so much grip and lean angle on a tire that's half as small, and it like
yeah,
puts a lot in perspective, and then really trains you to like utilize your corner speed and like figure those things out. And eventually you're like, man, I'm keeping up with big bikes, not in the straight, but like I'm catching them
yeah.
through the corners. And that
Oh
is
yeah,
what really taught me a lot. Transferring into bigger bikes, and maybe a better rider on my RSV4 and stuff.
yeah.
And they're fun and cheap, and like, man, you don't go through tires at all.
Well, that's it. And those are two important factors because you know once you get into a 1,000 cc bike, once you get into a 600 cc like an R6, I've had R6s. I had a Ninja 636 or whatever, or whatever it was, Ninja. I had a R6, and you'd kill a tire, in a day and a half, really.
Yep.
You would. The smaller bikes, the like R7 and below, I would say SV650, R7, 400. One guy that we know, he basically goes through two sets of tires a year on his little Ninja 400.
You talking about Betcher,
Um,
or are you talking about Dieter?
Dieter. He probably goes through two, three sets of tires, and I think the reason he goes through three sets is because of racing. It's not because he wants to have a new set for racing. Um, so I mean, it's a lot makes it a lot more affordable to learn how to ride a bike well on a track before you jump onto something that's going to kill a tire a day.
Yeah.
You know, um, because it's still, yeah, you can get the weekend out of your front, but your rear tire is still gone after a day on the track. You know,
Yep.
um, even if you flip it, it's still your track. Your times are, not even your time, but just your confidence in the bike will go down after a while. So, but that's the benefit of a smaller bike to me, is like just riding something smaller, fast, that's still fast, like a 400. Some of those guys on the, like Dieter on the 400 is still running 50, like I want to say he's doing 15, 16s at Nelson ledges. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, I said this. I think I probably said this a couple times during some of these interviews, but like, Rocco did 108s on a 400 at Nelson. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
It's
I mean,
possible.
if I, I've had, and you have people come, like as you're coaching and stuff, people come up to you and ask you bikes advice and things like that, and tire advice. I would say one of the biggest things is like, and I think we could improve it, and I want to talk to them about tire pressure on novice days. Just like make sure your tire pressure is where, even for a novice rider, you should look at your tire pressure. If you don't have a gauge, you should have a gauge.
Yeah.
If,
I,
borrow one. You should look at. You shouldn't be running 36 psi front and rear, even at novice pace,
Yeah,
on a
and
track
I
day.
actually, when I did that Q&A with those couple, with that Sam and Bennett, and one of the questions was like, how important is tire pressure? And I kind of had a two-part answer to it. I don't know if you watched that or not, but I like I was like, man, at their pace, it's is it something that absolutely needs to be? And I said not necessarily, because it's not going to make a big difference. But I would, you know, thinking about it more, it really is. I mean, your tire wear and the pressure at when they're at their skill set, having the right pressure on the tires makes a huge difference. Just because you're needing everything out of the tires possible for someone at that smaller skill set because of the way they're going to ride and
Yeah,
stuff, even if it's at a lower pace. But it's
they
this,
need the confidence. They
yeah,
need to feel the confidence. They need that extra, like, yeah, the tire. You may not need it for um, the reality.
well,
You
so
may
I
not be
thought
close
that
to the edge,
I
but you
kind
need
of
it. You need it for the confidence.
I kind of said the exact same thing, right? And but like I kind of want to go back and say you do need it. I mean, like having the correct tire pressures, not just for confidence sake and one less thing you have to worry about, but like when they're more apt to make mistakes.
Hmm.
Like having the tires set at the correct pressure, not like something crazy high or crazy low, is gonna be a huge advantage, right? To make sure that
Correct.
it's within those working pressures that
Yeah.
you need. So like I kind of almost want to go back on what I said originally of like, and does it really make your reality make a lot of big difference? No, but like it honestly it does. But in the confidence section, yeah, it's huge, right? I mean, it's just like I compare it to like, do you need aftermarket suspension? No. I mean, there's people who go way faster than me probably on stock suspension, but when you buy aftermarket suspension, you spent this money, you know, your brain goes, I'm better now because I have this better stuff. And like boasting your confidence makes you a better rider, right? I'm not
Yeah.
saying you need all that stuff for that, but when you do get it, like it does make your confidence level go up. That's like having an airbag suit. You feel more protected. I mean, you are more protected, but you will like
You
when I
are.
first airbag suit I got, I'm like, ooh, I can go faster because I have this extra level of protection, right? Like it's all
Yeah.
mind stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, ride. So riding a motorcycle, whether you're on the street or whether you're on the track, requires you to have 100% focus. Um, they talk about oh, you have 100 points of grip, right? But what we don't talk about is you have 100 points of focus, and your focus on a motorcycle needs to be 100% right then and there. You can't think about girlfriends or boyfriends or wives or husbands or your kids. You literally are taking your life in your hands and have to think about what you're doing at that actual moment. And it's one of the few times in our lives that if you can achieve that you're really living in the moment, you know, especially on the track. I will say on the dirt too. Like anytime you're on a motorcycle, if you're on motocross, if um, you're doing the exact same thing. But it's living in the moment, and it's such a wonderful feeling to be able to focus that hard uh, on it and be in the moment. Uh, that I think that's really the draw for a lot of people, that they don't even realize it, that's why they like it. Um, and then on the flip side of that, when you talk to people after they have an accident or if they go off track or something like that, I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 times, it's because they weren't in the moment. They weren't really paying attention to what they were doing, you know. And going flipping back to why I like to coach is that because that's what I like to teach them how to do is trying to be in the moment, like literally just, you know, the only thing that matters, you can't let your mind wander. You can't look at anybody else. You can't, you have to be literally in the moment of riding your bike. Um, and kind of that's when you're really free too, you know?
Yep, yep. Um, I'm gonna touch on some questions here because we're like
Sure.
just having good conversation. But there's a couple things I want to touch on, like certain questions I wanted
Sure.
to ask you before we really get going. Which is, it's been pretty nice, just kind of free rolling on stuff. But
Yeah.
let's see here. So, okay, this is one of the questions I always try to ask all the coaches.
Hmm.
Is there a particular time or something? Because you've been coaching for what now, 3 years roughly?
No, longer than
2?
that.
Oh,
No.
longer than that?
Yeah, I think, God, I want to say like 5 plus. You know,
Oh
how
well,
long have
then
you been
you
coaching?
coached with Lean then, because we haven't.
Yeah.
Fast Track's only been going for. I'm in my 3rd year, and I started when the new Fast Track started.
No.
Yes.
Okay. So
So
I don't.
you
It
had to
all
have coached with
blurs to
Lean.
me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So however long you've been coaching,
Hmm.
what is a particular moment, something, it could be someone you worked with or whatever it is that really has just always stuck with you, and it's just one of those times that you'll never forget. Um, just one of those things that stick out with you in your coaching experience you've had over the years.
Um. Well, it's not really a good experience. Um. To be blunt, and it happened this last year. I'm. We all joke. You guys all give me, a hard time about it, but I actually made somebody cry. And that it still bothers me. It has bothered me and it always does bother me. But I made, it wasn't necessarily anything I did. It was, because I literally made the person cry twice. I made them cry when I gave them a critique, and I made them cry when I gave them praise. So, um, but it still bothered me I'd actually had that effect on somebody, and it made me realize as a coach like how much some of our students or some of our clientele or students really pay attention to what we think, um, and we're just there's not a coach out there that's like Valentino Rossi or a Mark Marquez, right? None of us are superstars, are aliens. We're just really to be blunt, I think we're all just a bunch of guys that really know, I've been doing it for a while, I've been riding for a while, and want to share the experience and share our knowledge with other people. So not to rip on anybody, and I mean that in the most blessed possible way, to everybody that we want to help, but we're not aliens, right? Um,
Well,
and
no,
sometimes I,
we I you got to touch on this a little bit, which I've touched on before, but like we do a really good job. We have a good knowledge base with our riders,
yeah,
but
we
like there's
do.
always
Yeah,
someone faster. There are
there's
some
always
really
somebody
amazing
faster.
club
Yeah,
racers that are fast. There are Moto
yeah,
America guys that blow those guys out of the water. There's World
yeah.
Superbike guys that put those guys to shame. And then Moto
But that's
GP
that's
is just pinnacle. You know what I mean? Like at every
yeah,
level there's someone that's better.
yeah, and that's what I'm getting at is like we're all competent. We can teach you how to be a better rider. We can look at you, like there isn't. I don't think there's anybody on the coaching staff that can't take anybody and help them at a specific point in time, wherever they ride. What I do, what shook me a little bit at the core was how important what we say is to the clientele, and that still sticks with me, right now. Like it's still is like, um, you know, it just sticks with me, that I can um, make or break somebody, just by trying to help them be a better rider, and how I present my advice to them, if you will, or my coaching to them.
Yeah, and I would like to let everybody know that this is exactly how Craig talks when he's talking to people. He's not like aggressive or anything.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was kind of somewhat involved in that situation. I mean, I observed it and whatever. You didn't do anything wrong. You know, everybody has a different personality, a different way of handling things or taking criticism or
yeah,
not,
and I
whatever.
yeah.
And it is what it is. And, at the end of the day, you know, that person got sorted out. You
Oh no,
know,
they got sorted out. So just so everybody knows, like the advice I gave them, they took. The advice I gave them was absorbed, right? It was just I don't know how I did it in a way to upset them, but it was also, you know it kind of bothered me, and obviously it still bothers me. Um, but they took the advice, they corrected it. They were much safer on the track for doing it, and they came back and said, yes, now I see what you're talking about, and now I understand why you said that as well. So, but it was just it was just the initial, I think, critique that they weren't expecting. And if everybody wants to, if anybody's curious of what it was, is they were literally riding on the curbing. Um, they were putting both wheels on the curbing at Nelson Ledges instead of, you know, staying on the track. And my point was, you don't want to be in the curbing, because um, if it even if there's a little bit of moisture on the curbing, you're gonna, you're probably gonna have a bad day. Um, but on the flip side, if you keep your knee on that curbing, that's exactly what you want to do. The next time we went out, that person did exactly what I told them to do, and they were perfect. You know, and we ended up moving them up to the next moving that person up
yep,
to the next category.
yep,
Yep.
and they're doing really well.
Yeah, they still do well. They do great, but it was just the I I think it was that somebody, I didn't realize, and what I'm trying to relay to this is, I didn't realize the power that I had as a coach to affect somebody. Um, and that sticks with me. That's what, sticks with me, today.
So, kind of on that front, another question is, what do you think is one of the, an average or whatever, the major hurdles or whatever you want to call it, for a novice rider to get into intermediate? What is that? That one particular thing for people to overcome. On average, that to get into that intermediate
You
spot.
get out of intermediate.
Yeah.
I think it's self confidence. I really think it's just self confidence on their part. We have some people that have been in novice well past what they should be, because they don't have the self confidence in themselves. They're great riders, you know. Um, you when you let them out at the end of the day and you let them do their thing, they're good, but they're just not comfortable with it. So I think it's a comfort, it's them being comfortable with it. The other thing is, when you look at somebody, to get to that comfort level, has to be willing to take that input, um, to look at them, to take the criticism and basically, we we're we're dealing with a very serious situation with, riding 100 miles an hour into a corner, and I want you to do it as safely as possible. And I know that's kind of an oxymoron. You're going to go 100 miles an hour into a corner, um, but I want you to do it as safely as possible. And in order to do that, there's certain things that you need to do. And so being open to that input from us coaches to like say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to be so much safer, not necessarily faster, but safer. Because I'll speak from my personal experience. I don't think I was my first track day. I don't think I was the safest rider on the track. I will not say that in any way, shape, or form. I was backing the bike in. I thought I knew how to back a bike in from riding dirt bikes my whole life. So I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff once they let us loose, and they had to pull me aside and say, "Hey, you know, calm down." Um, so I think being able to take that input from somebody and take that coaching is really what also is a second step as far as getting you to the next level, whether that is intermediate or advanced.
Yeah. Okay. So that was going to be kind of my next question as far as what for intermediate to advance, what would be that hurdle? But you're saying same thing, right?
Yeah, it's not speed. It's really not speed. It's safety, and predictability. I think I've heard this on a couple of the other guys that, when I watched the podcast from the other guys talk. It's safety and speed. It's predictability. It's doing the, it, it's just doing the right thing, and it's there are people in advanced that are running not the fastest times. Let's be honest, they're not running the fastest time, but they never have an issue with that person because that person is always online. They're always predictable, so faster guys can get around them without problem. And you know that slower guy, that guy that maybe isn't the fastest guy in intermediate, can get faster by learning from those fast guys in advanced. You know, but it's really just understanding that you're always learning. This is a sport like almost like any sport that I've been involved with, and I've been involved with a lot of different things in my life in sports. You're always learning, and if the green you grow, you're red you rot, right? Is kind of the terminology behind it, or you're ripe you rot, however you want to say it.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Oh, okay, yeah. So you've obviously ridden with other organizations.
Yeah,
I know you haven't coached with other organizations unless it was like if you were coaching a lean or whatever, kind of same
yeah.
people, whatnot. But you've ridden with different track organizations and then raced and blah blah blah. But what do you think that Fast Tracks does exceptionally better, something different? What do we exceed at? What is our our big draw? You would say, like, what do we do better than some of these other organizations? And let's we don't have to name names or anything like that, but what is it about Fast Tracks that is like just stands out?
I think the thing more importantly is that we teach you how to ride safely on a track first. We're not about teaching you how to race. We're not about None of us care about your lap times. And yeah, I know we only do Nelson ledges, but if you took this group of people and put them at any given track, none of us care about your lap times. We care about making sure that you're safe, that you're going to have a good day, that you're going to have fun. Um, and compared to some other race organizations, or some other track day organizations, I think that's what sets us apart. Um, yeah, I mean, I
And
wish I had more to say on it, but I think it's just, you know, that we're there for we're there to teach you how to have a good day, have a fun day at the track, ride to your ability, and get better every day and get better. You know,
yep, yeah, I agree with that, man. What part of the track, from any standpoint, it could be from novice or intermediate or advanced, because like I've said this quite a few times, we've had experienced racers come to the track, and they usually do a track day with us Friday before racing the next day. They've never been there.
mm-hmm.
What do you think on average is the hardest part of the track? Let's say, I don't know if you want to call it to learn or get good at, or what is one part of the track that on average most people struggle with and struggle with the most?
Turn 4. I
And
mean, even Josh Hayes came to our track and did the national endurance race this last year, and I had an opportunity to sit and listen to him talk to another rider about it and everything, and he was talking about turn 4. Um, for whatever reason, that just drives. It doesn't bother me very much, even though I went down there this year. Um, I went down there because I tried something different and it didn't work. But once you learn the actual line for it, it doesn't. I've never had problems with it. But Josh, even when you have like a great rider, like a once in a lifetime rider like that, saying something about that particular corner, um, it makes you kind of reevaluate that corner a little bit.
I mean, I
Um,
followed him, and I consider myself, not trying to be braggadocious or anything like that, but I consider myself pretty quick in four, riding so
mm,
many laps there. But his line through there was completely different, and there's different ways to like do that corner.
yeah,
There's several different lines through. It
yeah,
just depends on how you want to take it. But his line was way different, and the only other person I saw take that line was Robbie No. And I
yeah.
feel like I repeat myself a lot during these interviews, but these questions get brought up and stuff. But man, Hayes was next level, and like if he thought he was struggling through it, God, I don't even know what I'd consider myself, because good
Did he
lord, he
go?
was freaking flying.
He went off twice
In four?
in 4. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean he kept it up. He didn't go down. He didn't crash or anything like that. But I
yeah.
want to say I think he went off the track or went offline twice on that weekend in 4. And he was racing with Army of Darkness at the time, and I'm sure he'll be back this year in 2026 with it with the same group. But um, and then the other thing is that I think another challenging section is the transition from 12 to 13. Um, you just there's a race line and there's a line, and a lot of people come out of 12 and then sweep way over to the left and then come into 13, and like I kind of watch that and I'm like, you don't need to do that. It's a lot of wasted movement and energy and track, if you will. Um,
I set up 12. Well, it depends on who I'm helping. Like, some of the coaches that I race with and stuff. I've kind of showed them just the way I do 12, 13, which is kind of like holding way, get a little bit later turn in on that. So you just end up at the left side of the track. So you're not making several
mhm,
movements.
yeah,
But that later and squaring up 13, especially like in a race, you can just really drive underneath people because
yeah.
they're
Yeah, well, I think I do the same or similar line to you, but when you come out of 12, there's a yellow sign on the street, um, and if you aim right for that yellow sign instead of coming all the way back over to the left and then sweeping back in, if you just come out of 12 and you aim right for that sign, it puts you right in the perfect spot. It literally puts you in the same spot that all those people that almost everybody gets to when they go, and they sweep out and then come left.
I guess
Um,
a lot of times when I like what kind of made me keep doing that line was that was a place where I could utilize a little bit more corner speed when I raced there because I'm so used to the
mhm.
track. And people would really have to, when they get to the apex, they're slowed down so much. And a lot of times I'd be right behind them and I'd really have to brake and I'd lose so much speed. So I would drive myself out wide. And once they hit that apex, I'm just starting, I'm on the gas before them. And by the time they start to leave the apex, I'm already driving right up underneath of them and I'm already
Yep.
on the throttle. And then
Yeah.
I could exit a lot quicker. And that's why I have always kind of ran that line. It's kind of worked out for me quite a bit there.
Yeah. It's there's when we're coaching, I think we tend to show. Like when I'm coaching, I show the racer line. I don't necessarily always show the the track line, if you will.
Yeah,
I show the racer line. Um, because I'll notice some other things like going down the back straight. A lot of guys will stay way over to the left the whole way around the sub kink, and um, and I don't. I the shortest distance between 2 points is usually a straight line,
yeah,
and so I kind of cut that sub kink, to the inside and kind of shorten the track up a little bit, and I, yeah, that's kind of that's. But the two parts that obviously at Nelson Ledges that everybody struggles with is going to be corner four, um, and then that transition between 12 and 13. Um, and that's those are the really it's the place where I get the most questions. Like later in the day when we're coaching novice and the guys are on their own, um, they come up to me and they're like, "Well, how do you take this corner and how do you?" And it's usually three corners. It's four, it's 12, 13, that combination, and then it's the carousel. And the carousel, there's no right answer, wrong answer for it. It's just you have to find what works best for you. You know, I remember a buddy that we used to race with me on the spare parts team, Eddie. He took a he took that carousel way out wide and then just dove in um, the whole way. Like he was way out to the left of the track the whole almost the whole time. And he was fast, and it worked for him. But I could never do that. I could never find the comfort level in it.
yeah.
So
I'm the same way, and that
yeah,
I was just thinking about a question to ask you is like, have you given people what I kind of call this the safe line, right? To get comfortable with it. Like I've even used this with people that have crashed in a certain corner, like for instance, Chris Johnson, he crashed in 4. And I
yeah,
remember,
yeah, yeah,
didn't even know that he crashed, but like, one day it was before he was coaching with us. He came back and we were running around. We always used to run around together. He was always really, really fast. And we were doing some laps and, I pulled away from him at one point and then we got off track of that session. I'm like, what happened, man? Like, you used to be like super fast. And he's like, I crashed in 4. I didn't know that. I've already told the story probably like 3 times anyways, but, and I'm like, oh, well, let's try to help you with that, So like, told him, if you get in there and stick inside sooner because the corner's so banked, you just, you're in there and it's comfortable. And once you get comfortable with that corner again and a little bit more speed, then you could start like getting back out to that natural line or that faster line that he used to be on.
yeah,
But like, I'll even do this with novice and stuff. Like if they're not comfortable on the particular line, I'm like, okay, here, do this, stay inside here, or do this, which is like kind of a more safer feeling line, and
yeah.
mentally it
Yeah,
prepares you, and then you can kind of gradually, once they get that speed up and understand the amount of traction and stuff, then you can move them to the more correct line, if you want to say
yeah,
that.
yeah. You have to. that's one of the things with coaching that's kind of cool is you literally have to coach to their capability. And you know, you have great students, and then you have like not so great students. And the great students will usually come up and ask you those questions and tell you, be able to give you the feedback that they're not comfortable with this, or they're not comfortable with that, or they're struggling. And it usually comes in the form of, hey, yeah, I'm really struggling on this corner, you know. Um, and yeah, you might be struggling on it because I'm showing you a race line, right? Which is a great line. It's the quickest way around the track, and it's really the right line that you necessarily, but it's like you said, it's not necessarily the safest line. So we're going to adjust what you do, and most of the time it's like by a foot, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking from like the right side of the track to the left side of the track. We're talking like we're going to give you a little bit more
Margin of error.
mental security. Yeah, margin of error. We're going to give you a greater feeling of margin of error by moving you a foot left or a foot right. You know, and that's what's kind of fun about coaching is like when you have when you have a good student that comes up to you and asks you about stuff and kind of wants to learn and things like that versus some of the guys who don't.
Um, One thing that I always like really talk about and try to like stress because it was always, I mean, I think it's an issue with everybody, when you plateau or you have these blocks. I mean, it's always like from start to finish. I mean, outside of your basics that you learn of like, you know, the line, your entry, apex, exit, body position, brakes, shift points, etc.
Yeah, body
Mental,
position.
the the mental aspect is what holds everybody back because we can't twist a throttle for you, we can't brake for you.
I agree.
Is there anything that you like, any special techniques that you have? Could be for a particular corner or a particular way you do something that you have like come up with or applied to things to help people with that. Like I've come up with a couple little things, and I'm always trying to work on coming up with ways to help mitigate those mental blocks by like a couple things I do. I won't go into all of them right now because I want to kind of hear your answer on it. But some of the things that I do it so it's like it's a way to like trick your brain into allowing you to do, you know, go faster into a corner or whatever it is, but not by doing the normal thing. For instance, like, well, you need to carry more corner speed in here. Well, just wait and brake later, that type of thing. Like, that doesn't always work for people.
Yeah,
And usually,
it just yeah.
what they end up
Well, just
doing is braking harder and slowing
yeah,
down more than they used to,
more.
or
Yep.
they panic and it could send them off the track. And I've come up with a couple things to like, trick your brain and make it not as scary so you can experience that higher corner speed without doing that, like braking way, way, way later. Is there anything that you've come up with or little techniques that you've, done over the years that you share with people?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind on all that is like, are you wearing earplugs?
Oh,
you
dude,
know,
same thing, man. That's a huge one for me. Huge one that I tell
like,
people.
do you wear earplugs? Because if you're not wearing earplugs, you're slow. I I don't care how fast you think you're going to go. I don't care who you are. If you're not wearing earplugs, you're not going as fast as you could.
And that reason is
Um,
why. Let everybody know.
because you have 100. We always talk. You hear this in like champ school and stuff like this, and we talked about this earlier. But you have 100 points of traction on the tire, right? But you also have 100 points of focus with your brain. And if you're sitting here listening to the engine RPMs and everything, the wind and and that's distracting you. It's taken away from your visual focus. And motorcycle riding, track day riding is all about visual. Um,
I also say
and
that it dulls the sense of speed, which helps.
it Well, that's exactly where I'm coming from. Is it dulls it. It allows you to focus more, which allows you to look farther ahead, right? Because you're not distracted by the sound. You're not you're not spending 25 of those matches, if you will. If you have 100 matches, you're not spending 25 of them on listening to the engine. You have 25 now that you can additionally spend on looking forward. And as you know, the farther you can look forward and the more you can be focused on your vision, the slower everything is. So, you know, earplugs just make a huge difference. I know a lot of guys. I know well a couple guys. I know a couple guys that don't use them, and it's just like, you know, they like the sound and or whatever. But and they're still quick. They're still fast. But I think earplugs are number one.
I remember.
Um,
I remember. I one race. I was. It came up really quick, and I was like, "Oh crap! I got to get out there." It was third call. Threw my helmet on stuff, and I got it on track. And like, I think I made it through like two corners. And I go, "Oh shit!" Like, I was like, "This is so loud." I'm like, "Oh man!"
yeah,
And it
yeah,
like it just hung over me the whole race. Like it was
yeah,
just, man, it was so strange because I never ride without them, and it was just like,
yeah.
this is so weird.
Yeah, earplugs are so huge. And you can go to Home Depot and buy a big container of them they'll take you through the whole year. And I buy a big container of them, and it takes care of me and Tony and Adam, and I don't know who else. Everybody grabs earplugs from me. Um, but it makes the hugest difference to me is like putting those in and using those. Another thing is just teaching them to look forward. Use your eyes because again, as I stated just a few seconds ago or a little bit ago, it's a visual sport. And the farther you can see forward, the slower everything in between, is. Uh, so you can react. Um, I think the other thing is the other advice I would get is just ride as many different places as you can. Ride everything and anything you can whenever you can. I think that'll make you faster on any particular given racetrack or race course. Of course, come to Nelson Ledges and ride every weekend there. But if you have the opportunity to ride at other race courses, do it. The different corners, and you'll start to see a pattern in corners. It'll help you. Um, it'll help you recognize like a 90-degree corner and a 110-degree corner and it'll just help you be faster at every place. Um, I don't know if I think that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, I mean, more tracks you get because like every track's a little bit different. They have different
Yeah.
technicalities, and you'll learn a little different things, skill sets for these different types of corners, increasing, decreasing radiuses, elevation
I think.
changes,
Yep.
all these
Yeah.
different things. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely good.
One and it just dawned on me. Another thing is body position and over. You know, when I'm in novice, the first half of the day, um, we ride, at a controlled pace, right? The before lunch, we ride really controlled to kind of overemphasize the race line or the ride line. I'll call it the race line. Um, and in order to do that, a lot of us, not I won't say everybody, but a lot of us overemphasize our body position to try and give you an idea of what it's supposed to look like, or the average a new rider, what it's supposed to look like on the bike. In the afternoon, when we go out and we're doing one-on-one sessions or two-on-one type things, and you're looking at it, you can see how um, not correct the body position is on a lot of people. And so I think I spend the second half of the day from in novice really trying to emphasize body position for almost everybody. There's only a few cases where and that comes down to fitness. I mean, we're riding motorcycles, but it really comes down. It's physically demanding to ride a motorcycle at speed. Your core, your arms, your neck, everything just you know gets used. You're not and you're just kind of shocked. I think a lot of people are shocked at how physically tired they get throughout the day. They're like, I'm just riding a motorcycle, but then by the last session of the day, they're just wrecked physically.
Yeah,
So
I'm that person. The first track day of every year, I'm like,
yeah,
oh, good lord, it's been a long winter, and
yeah,
I definitely need to maybe up my physical fitness game over the winter. But I work
yeah. I would say literally just any fitness you can do, even just walking on a treadmill with like a weighted vest.
stretching
Um,
is huge.
Stretching is huge. Stretching, I'm not. If you've ever ridden with me, or if you ever like, you'll notice I'm not the most flexible person in the world. I've broken my neck. I've broken my back. Um, so I'm not the most flexible person in the world. But yeah, stretching is huge. Uh, Physical endurance, core strength, arm strength is huge. I'm not talking being able to like bench press 400 pounds, but you should be able to do 25 push-ups, or 3 sets of 25 push-ups, um, without fatiguing out. You're out there for 20 minutes. A track session is 20 minutes, so you should be able to do a little bit of physical exercise, a little bit of physical training before. That was the one thing I noticed, like when I first got into it, from bicycle racing, because I literally went from racing, bicycles, doing like 100 125 mile bicycle races
Jesus.
um, to track days, in a matter of 2 weeks. Uh, and I just was shocked at literally how physically demanding it was to ride a motorcycle. I thought in my head, from it would be so much easier. Not it's the motor's doing all the work, the gasoline in the engine's doing all the work. All I got to do is just sit on it. But hanging off of it and it is physically demanding, and I think that's a shortfall to a lot of people, because they don't have the strength to weight ratio that they need to be able to ride the way that they want, and that slows them down a little bit.
I would also say, and you probably, I'm sure you'd agree with me on this, but the bigger bikes, oh boy, man, leader
Yeah,
bikes are, it takes everything you got. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I could go out the ultra lightweight, the 400 stuff. You could ride them all day and be good, even if
yeah,
you don't have a ton of fitness. But my 660, I can ride all day and not be. I mean, I still wear myself out if I'm really giving pace. But I get on the V4 and I'm like, 15 minutes. I'm like, Jesus. I'm
yeah,
exhausted, not just physically, but mentally exhausted because how
yeah,
quick everything's coming at you, and it's
mhm.
it's huge, and it's if you want to pick your pace up, that's part of it, the physical fitness and mental
I mean,
fitness too, getting used to that type of pace.
there's a reason a lot of the top MotoGP, Moto America guys all ride bicycle, and quite honestly could be, top elite level bicycle racers,
Yeah,
road racers, because to be at that level, if you really want to, pursue this and get it at a elite level, you have to be physically fit. There's just no way around it. Um, we're not, and then you could also go into the weight, um, factor about trying to lose weight.
cheapest way to go faster instead of buying parts, you just lose a little weight.
Yeah, Mhm. I, I'm shocked at it. You know, like I'm literally shocked over the last years, how much physical activity, off season really affects, um, eh, my on season. And again, I'm old, so I mean,
We all
it's
are.
that's gonna happen. Yeah, I know. But the older I get, the more I have to work out to be quick on a motorcycle.
Yep. It's yeah. I I need to force myself this year. I always go, I should, and
Yeah,
I end up not because I'm like, oh, I'm busy, I'm doing this and that. But then every start of the season, I go, oh, man, I wish I would have.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, and it's not a ton of time, because again, like I think if you did it, I I'm not going to tell anybody what their workout plan ought to be, but I think if you can work out an hour a day, 3, 4 days a week, you know, um, I think that's going to help you a lot on a motorcycle. And by working out, I don't mean going out there and power lifting weights or anything like that. I just mean physical activity. I know so many people that don't do anything, um, other than come to the racetrack, and talk to guys, and they just they work. We all have wives and kids and everything else that goes along with it, and and other responsibilities. But it's we let's face it, track riding isn't, just doing a track day is not cheap, and so why not optimize it by spending an hour a day on your health.
Yeah,
um,
that's. I mean, that's a good way to put it. Is like if you want to get the most of your money.
yeah, yeah, why not?
I
What
agree.
else you got for me?
Um, if there, someone who's on the fence or maybe kind of thinking about doing a track day, they've never done one, they're a street rider, whatever it is. And I've, had people before. I'm like, oh, you should come out to the track and learn a couple things. I'm not going to race. I'm not into that stuff, whatever. Um, you know, what would you tell that person? You know, what, what are the benefits of doing it? Even if you're not, typically people who go to the track come back quite a bit. But for somebody who has that
Yeah.
type of mindset, what would you say to them? Like, what's the benefit of doing that? Besides, it's not just for, racing. What are the benefits they get from doing that track day? And, what would you say to them to say, to kind of push them towards that or get their mind changed about doing a track day?
I think that you're going to be a better rider for doing it. Even if, I don't care what you ride. I mean, I've ridden Harleys, for decades. I've ridden, sport bikes on the. I ride anything with two wheels. I'll ride on the street as well as the track. Um, and I think it. I've had a couple of people that are asked, they come to the track on their street bikes, and they kind of they ask us that question that you're asking me right now, like, why should I do this, or what's the benefit of it? And it's just learning how to control your bike a lot better than you think you are. We have guys that used to stunt ride that come to the racetrack and are like, wow, this is completely different, and it makes them a better just street rider, because they understand things. They'll learn things about riding a motorcycle that they can't learn in a basic course, just a street rider course. They can't learn on the street by themselves, because by learning, by being on the street, you're dealing with the unknown of cars and other bikes, and just the unknown. Whereas when you're on the racetrack, just learning how to see better, just your vision, you're able to, practice that skill on the racetrack. Um, so that's my thing. Even if you come out and do it once, you're going to learn a lot more. You're going to learn a lot. Your eyes will open up to what it is. But the other thing is, I would say 90% of the people that come to the track days are never going to race a motorcycle, don't and will never race a motorcycle. They have no interest in it. They just enjoy coming out to the race, to the track, doing a track day, and riding with people in a very safe environment. I mean, you think about. I look at Nelson Ledges and well, I'll I'll go back to riding a bicycle. I used to train, like I say, I used to train about 500 miles a week on a bicycle, on city streets. And if I got hit by a car or if I went off the road or something like that, I was dependent on the fact that I was able to make a cell phone call and get somebody out there to help me. Right. You come to Nelson Ledges, you're riding in a controlled environment. Everybody's riding in the same direction. You don't have to ever worry about oncoming traffic. You don't have to worry about anything like that. You have medical personnel on the spot. Even the worst accident I've seen at Nelson Ledges, we've had somebody, the ambulances rolled within like a minute. You know, um, I think it's the safest place to go. You know, if you want to learn, if you think if you even just want to learn, I think that's the best place to go is to the racetrack to learn for a track day, or track days.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, man. I think that's all my questions I got. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to speak on in particular?
Oh man, I without rehashing what we talked about before the show, um, I just the the one thing that always comes up, and you're notorious for giving me a hard time about it is my choice of bikes. Um, I ride small bikes. I ride small bikes for a reason. I don't want to ride uh, big bikes. I by big bikes I mean 1,000 cc motorcycles. Um,
Look,
uh,
I have
and
one
it
now. I've been riding a lightweight twin for quite a while, and I owned a leader bike before, and I've had Matt or Matt Chris Johnson was he was thinking about either buying an R6 or an R1, either Comrie's R1 or
Yeah, I mean, I had an R6, and I love the R6. I think it's a great bike once you learn how to ride it. It's a fantastic bike. It's hard to ride,
yeah. I don't
because
like.
you literally,
I'm not an inline
you,
guy, but what I was gonna say is what I told him,
mm,
dude. It's you get so much. There's more reward riding a slower bike fast
yeah,
than riding this big, huge, powerful bike. I mean, every time I go to the track, I'm like, my RS660, it's got a built motor and stuff. It's race prep, whatever, but I'm only 1 second off the fastest lap on my V4 Ducati. Now, granted, I've
mm,
only had that this year, so I'm not completely, you know, at home with that bike yet, but still, I'm only 1 second off of a bike that's double the power.
yeah,
It's way more
yeah,
rewarding to ride the 660 quickly, and even on track next to big bikes and being able to, keep up with these leader bikes and guys that are decently fast. I mean, even when I race, I bump up sometimes into heavyweight twins running the 1098s and 1198s
yeah.
and Buell 1190s and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm keeping up with them on a 660 Aprilia, and
Well,
it's crazy,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
just it makes me feel so much better about my riding skill. But when I ride the
Mm,
V4, and I'm like, this is like the bike is capable of way more. I'm not even close to what its capabilities are. But the
yeah,
660, I mean, even though I know I'm not 100% of its capability, I'm way closer. So I'm utilizing the bike to more of its potential, and it's just way more rewarding that way.
yeah. It's just and I'll go from a different point because even your 660 is like an expensive bike. I think for the average guy out there or lady out there that wants to get into this and wants to do this. They've done it. Um, there's a couple of people that we've we've all talked to, and like the Ninja 400, the SV 650 are like still the bikes to get for starting out. Yeah, you can pick up a Ducati or a BMW or a R1 or something like that. But the nice thing about an SV, you can buy a Gen 2 SV for that already has suspension and it's already been built up for like $2,500. I was just looking at one earlier on Facebook for like $2,500. Um, if you have a really bad day at the racetrack, you can walk away from $2,500, right? You could throw the thing in the garbage can and gotta, go on to the next thing and try and find another one. Whereas, I see guys come out with, um, other bikes, and I saw a guy come out with an Aprilia, no, not an Aprilia, a MV Agusta, and totaled it at the track, and he was just devastated, you know. And it wasn't like it just if he would have been on like a cheap bike to learn how to ride, I think he wouldn't have had the same problems. If that makes any sense whatsoever, is like if you find a cheap bike, find something to get to the track, spend your money on track time, spend your money on track safety equipment, i.e., the airbag for your suit. You're gonna have you're gonna be much get much more out of it than you will if you show up with your $30,000 motorcycle with that's already been built up that you can't even ride to its potential yet because your skill level isn't
Yeah,
there. So that's
I would agree with you on that. The problem is here the couple problems I see. One,
ego.
most people aren't, especially if they've never been to the track,
Yeah.
aren't just straight out going to be like, well, all right, I'm committed to track days now, and I'm going to buy a track only bike. They
Mm-hmm.
most of the time they're whatever their street bike is, they're bringing it. And they try it out, see is this for me? If they start to like it, I could see that way, right? Correct.
Yeah.
And like,
The second bike, I'm not talking that bike. I'm talking the guys who come back after that come back with the they come to the track on their Ducati, right? Or they come to the track on their BMW and do their first track day and then realize that this is what they want to do and then bring that bike back. I'm saying those are those are the people that I'm saying should probably then look at, just getting something that they can throw away.
yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that totally. I also, think that like starting on like an ultra, like a 400 or something like that, it's just like it's such a great way to learn. Like we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, it doesn't, you can't cheat the
Corner speed.
skill. Yeah, I mean, like a leader bike, you can make up a whole bunch of time down the straight. Can also get you in a lot of trouble, but it's not. It's really hard to make those improvements in your riding style when you think you're doing a lap, okay lap, but a lot of it's because your the speed of the bike is making up so much in those front straight or back straight. Let's say at Nelson.
Yeah.
What I would disagree with you on is the not that SVs are bad, but I think they're past their time now. Like
Oh,
literally just
yeah,
literally
yeah,
just saw a 660 for like $6,000.
yeah.
And like I have a 660, so I'm a little bit biased, but like what you get for that bike, and now especially, I think the 660 is going to end up being what the SV was. The SV used to be the like track day and race bike. Like they weren't super super expensive. It's a great class. Things were like parts and stuff were reasonable to buy versus like Gixxers and Ninjas and R6s and stuff like that. And I think the 660 I think is like
Yeah,
now
yeah.
that bike, but
Well, I agree. Other than the parts and the cost, I
it's
agree
getting
with you. I
better
think
the
the
longer they've been
660.
out.
Yeah, yeah. The longer they're out, the cheaper it's going to be. Hopefully, the new R7 is going to be um, more horsepower.
It's
You
not.
know. Well, here's the thing with that. Well, we could go into that. I think it's going to be. I don't know that it is because they're using that same engine in Moto. 1 or Moto 3 next year, or 2027. It's going to either that's going to be the Moto 3 engine.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think they're going to have to do something to the engine, and they're already building a bigger radiator. You already know the GYTR head, which this is the other thing is they already know the GYTR head works and gives you 100 horsepower, so they can get the horsepower to the engine if they want. Um,
This
but they're
my
not
my
doing it
issue
in
with it is
street.
though, like the R7,
Yeah,
to get it to even the potential that the 660 makes stock, you have to put a ton of
yeah.
money into. And
Well, you're putting the same money into it. Yeah, so the bikes are still costing. The only reason I even so this is another reason why I would jump on on a Ninja 400 right now. If I was like starting out, like, or my kid wanted to get into this and stuff, I would get him on a Ninja 400 because they're not going to race it anymore. They're, like Moto America is done with
right,
it,
yeah,
but there's a ton of them out there that are like were developed, where suspension and engine work and everything is done, slipper clutches and all that stuff's already been done to them, and they're just dropping in value. But they're still great bikes. They're still
yep,
better than stock, right? So I would look more at a Ninja 400 than even an SV650, but I wouldn't rule out an SV650.
yeah,
I would just understand that I'm probably going to only ride the bike for a year or two until I get my skill level up to where it needs to be, where I can be on a better bike, a bigger bike, and like a 660, and I can do that for $2,500 versus $6,000 for a 660,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean
You
that's
know,
the other reason I always
I'm
kind of
I'm poor, right? So the reality of it is, I'm cheap and I'm poor, right? So I
well,
look for the
you're
and this is
not,
an
but
expensive hobby.
you're not. But the other thing I would say is like the six. Why I praise 660 so much. One, because I mean I think it's a fantastic bike as far as
Oh, I think it's a
chassis and everything.
fantastic bike too.
But the other
I
thing
really
is
do.
it's so close in power to like a 600. You know,
Yeah,
like the especially like a CBR 600, which are kind of low in power. Like,
yeah,
and the way it delivers power and stuff. You know, you can ride it kind of as a beginner and also still, you know, not
grow
get
into it.
you can't. I mean, you could get bored with it if you really wanted to, but like it's not a bike that's easily you could easily get bored with.
No,
Whereas like the SV650, you know, it's what 60 some horsepower, and same with the R7. You know, I mean, like
yeah,
you put a stock
they're
660
two.
next to any of
Yeah,
those, it's just crazy. And
yeah,
like so a little bit extra money and something that you can grow into, which means you know you can you're not buying a bike, selling it, going to buy another bike, putting money into it, whatever. But I mean that's just personal opinion on it. I think you know
yeah.
for
It's
me the
just two
all
different.
around. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's two different ways. It's two different ways of skinning the same cat.
Yeah.
It's just two different philosophies that we have. One you're like spend the money up front, and I guess I'm more of the aspect of I don't have the money to if I don't have the money to spend up front, I'm that's my way of still getting to the racetrack,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's still good bikes, right? I mean, you can still hit, at Nelson Ledges you can still hit 115s with an SV.
Well, you can go
It,
faster than that. Just ask what's his name, Jared.
yeah, you can do faster than that on an SV, but I know like you can 115 is a pretty good pace
Yeah.
at um, on an SV, right? Um, yeah, you can do 110s on a 660, um, but you know how most people, it's going to take them a while to get there. Even if they have the 660, they're still going to be running, you know. So spend them, just spend your money wisely, especially if you don't have a lot of it. As guess my message to it is like, you get to the track because it's a freaking good time, man. It's fun just hanging out and hanging out with the people that you meet and talk to are all, usually all pretty cool. I think the coaches are pretty cool. Um, you know, we have a good time. We get along. And one thing I will say is that we're all really interested in making the average rider better.
Yep.
The average person that comes out. We want to make them safe. Want to make them better. We want to make them, have a good day at the racetrack. Uh, and I can't say that about every or every track day organization that I've been involved with. I that Fast Tracks has that going for it. Not to sound salesy or anything like that, but that is one of the things that Fast Tracks has is like everybody's like willing to jump in and help. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
not
know,
not
I
just
don't know,
because. Go
I don't
ahead.
know how many motorcycles I fixed last year at the racetrack.
Yeah, a lot.
For just random peoples, that needed a part or this part. Um, Hence the name spare parts. Um, but yeah, it's a good time.
Agreed, man. Like, not just because I'm part of the organization, but like, there's just, I've never been with a better organization. Just, it's such a really good family atmosphere, open to anybody, willing to help, willing to lend this, that, parts, air compressor, generator, tire warmers, whatever. I mean, I remember a guy forgot one boot one day, and
Yeah,
we
we
loaned
and we
boots.
found him boots. We found him
Yeah,
boots.
it's just
Um,
all of that, and that's where every one of us is willing to go that extra mile to ensure that you have the best day you can have, and you're around the best atmosphere.
an oil filler cap.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yep.
the one some guy changed his oil the night before, and we had to find him an oil filler cap because he forgot to put the oil cap back on his bike.
That's
I mean,
funny.
just weird stuff. Um, but yeah, like it's a good time. It's a good time hanging out at the track. I don't hang out at Nelson Ledges as much as I'd like to because of um, I live really close to the track. So usually I go home at night, but I I regret that. I wish I'd spend more time at the racetrack, but I have, family and kids that I have to take care of it
Yep.
as well. But it's just a good time. There's nothing better than sitting around hanging, literally even after the day is over. I had the most fun I would have. I'll go back to the lean days when we would stay at the track all the time. Um, was literally sitting around at night, just you know,
It's my favorite hang,
BSing
man.
and
It's the best time.
having a couple of adult beverages, or and we'd
Poking
actually go on
fun.
a giving each other a hard time and
Yep.
walking the track and figuring out what we're going to do for the next day for the endurance race and that whole kind of thing, practicing stuff and making each other, making food and stuff like, it was a good time.
It's the
So,
best.
it's one of the, it's still a family environment too,
Yep.
which is kind of cool. So,
Indeed, man. Well, is
cool.
there anything else before we wrap up, or?
I think I covered it all, man. I mean, I'm a babbler, so I could talk for another hour if you
Yeah, me
really
too.
want. But I don't think anybody's listening to us after a while. So,
Yeah, maybe. Well, I
so
appreciate you taking time out to do this. It took a little while to get us, lined up to be able to do it, but it was interesting
yeah,
conversation, and I think we covered quite a bit of topics that'll be useful. Hopefully, people will, get some use out of this stuff and get
good.
to know you a little bit better and kind of see where your mind's at on coaching and stuff. And yeah, I mean, like I said, can't thank you enough for taking the time out to do it, and we'll definitely can't wait to be doing this again. At the track here next season, and
Yeah,
anybody that's going to come
we'll,
out, say hi to Craig. He'll help you out and give you a heck of a day. And he's got a lot of advice, and yeah, just ask him. Come up, say hi, and he'll work with you whenever.
yep, anytime. Just ask me if I got if you need it and I got it, I'll get it to you
There you go.
or parts bill.
All right. Well, again, thanks,
All right,
and
guys.
we'll go ahead and cut it out there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching this, and we'll see you guys later.
Alrighty, bye bye.